want to go. It's pretty interesting to think how we've been trying for so many years since pretty much the 1940s and 1950s and even into the 60s and all, with the Martin Luther King Jr. movements and stuff, to give Blacks equal rights. And that really applies to all minorities, even though that was a particular one that made up the big majority of the population that was not white at the time, since we didn't have as many different ethnic groups and different diversities at the time in history, at least in the US or areas I know of. And that said, it's not to mean that Black lives are the only ones that matter versus all minorities and all people of all kinds, that basically we need equality. But there was a community college president who, at this particular community college somewhere in the northern part of the US, northern central, I forget what state, but he was on NPR News yesterday about his population. The majority of the people that attend his community college and or already have associate's degrees or were transfer students into community colleges were Native Americans, which some of you may know that I'm Native American, even though I'm identified as white. I'm 60% up to 75% Native American. And so even though I say I'm white, in reality, that's pretty much my own people. Personally, I'm Cherokee and Choctaw tribe. And the other part of me that's not white is Jewish, from Jerusalem. And as some people say, God's chosen people. It's upon how you look at it. But still, that's why I'm olive skin. That's why I don't actually look white, because I'm those groups, even though my parents on my birth certificate wrote me as being white. However, that hit home with me, because who knows who of those could have been the Native American side of my family, and could have been even my own family. And just because they're brave enough to label themselves as Native American, that when it comes to the equality at that community college and the president standing up to say that they don't want to just service Native Americans as their general population, but they want to also be part of the Black Lives Matter, to welcome people of all groups, ethnicities, and other different forms of diversity. And what happens? If you haven't heard from NPR, the president was fired, and the community college was forced to start shut down and losing accreditation. So that means all these different people that already have, like I said, either an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree where they did their first 2 years at that community college, now suddenly don't even have a legitimate degree anymore. Because yes, you have that paper, but if there's no such college, or the college that gave it is no longer accredited and or no longer exists, their degree of whatever kind, or certificate, or license to work, and so forth, is basically null and void. It has no meaning at all. It's just a piece of paper, like any ordinary notebook paper that we could pick up and write the word degree on. That is what's happening to that particular area. That's where somebody was trying to support diversity, and in the end, the college was forced to shut down and lose accreditation, with no other chance to possibly get accreditation back, because they're forced to shut down. This is such a shift that's evolving away from compassion. So instead of whichever government official or someone at national level, without specifying what side, the red or blue side, but there's a certain side that has been pushing against equality. And there's the other side that's trying to push towards equality. And the side that right now is winning is the one that's against equality. And that's such a big problem. Why is it that just because we're minorities, even an entire community or major city of skilled working people now are losing their jobs because their degree becomes null and void just because their college wanted to support diversity? Stuff like this we see going on, the ongoing massive shootings that's already hit record numbers in just the first quarter. It was already like 146 or something before what happened today on April 12th, 2023. This is just going back to Tuesday, yesterday, that there was one. Now there's another one today, and it's only been 24 hours, if even that. And we have another one. That to say, compassion is exiting our culture. Because if we actually had compassion, love, and understanding for one another, care for each other, even if you don't like using the word love, but still some kind of care and compassion for one another, we would not be shooting each other. Neither would we be shutting down organizations that are trying to support equality, because to see each other as equal, regardless of our races, ethnicities, abilities, disabilities, anything, we have to first see each other as equal, human to human, male to male, female to female, male to female, different groups of all these people of all different differences that are all equal, because in the end, we're all human, we're all American, and the Constitution was started off with "we the people." It doesn't say "we only men," and it says that we get equal rights. It didn't say rights that favor white men. It did not say rights that favor some other group, that's only men and against women, or looking at the ethnicity again. It said "we the people," and we are all humankind, and we're all people. Then again, the Constitution was based off that we all have equal rights. And then again, it didn't say that there is to be a divide. It didn't say there was to be discrimination. It didn't say there's to be racism. It says all of us are to have equal rights, because we're all humans and we are all the Americans, whatever is our uniqueness, I should say, the way that we are different from one another. And I just see all of this is that we need compassionate citizens here even more, because this is the exiting of compassion from our everyday, at least in the US. I mean, there's some of y'all have heard me talk on my podcast, Jaws Mental Health Awareness, about the inequality in healthcare. Those that actually need it the most are the ones that can't get it because we have pre-existing conditions. And if we have pre-existing conditions, that means we have to have insurance in some cases to even stay alive. So then stuff like that goes back to is it to say that if we have conditions that we don't have equal rights to healthcare? So there's so much going on in our system, at least the US, without necessarily being law invasion, like the law impeding on our freedom, but it's definitely causing a movement of the shift of attitudes of different Americans to push for certain movements, but not others. And or in some cases, it's not you and me, the everyday Americans. In some cases, it's our representatives, like the senators and the the Democrats, Republicans, the liberals, but it's our state or county or city representatives at the state or federal level. But sometimes it's our politicians that look at their own interest, like how I'm working with a trust organization, a legal group that's like a bunch of lawyers that are helping me up in the trust. And one thing they said was that laws will always favor the wealthy. Why? Because the laws are made by the wealthy people. And that's pretty true, at least based off what I've seen, because how many people have enough money to spend $1,000 per second to have a 10 or 20-second commercial on TV in just one metro area or one zip code, and much less all over the entire US, and that being just one TV ad. I mean, not many of us Americans can afford that. So definitely knowing the kind of cost they pay for just those advertisements to run for different campaigns on just that one occurrence on TV to be all over the US. I mean, you may be already talking in the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars for that one ad. So we all know these are wealthy people that are not the everyday Americans. And I hate to say it, but this compassion is leaving our country. And somehow we need to all come together to bring back compassion, care, the attitude of acceptance and desire for ourselves, our neighbors, our friends, co-workers, employees, bosses, and everybody else, of equality, as well as compassion. It takes compassion to believe that we're all equal. It takes compassion to care about one another and to want each other to benefit and to soar, excelling above and beyond together instead of alone. And none of this do we have to go at alone. Whether it's your family, it's your best friend, it's somebody you work with. We all have that somebody. And we need to go to him or her or them to look for opportunities to spread compassion. And that is my story for today, because that seems to be what's the biggest deal with the latest news. What do you have to say, Emily?
No, again, I agree with what you're saying, and the compassion is a very important and needed topic. Should be talked about at any point, but especially right now.
Are you up to date with those statistics I was giving? Or what's your opinion on them if you didn't know?
The ridiculous.
But it would state the absence of equality in these different ways definitely is saying that compassion is leaving, right?
Couldn't maybe say that.
Well, if one human is more valuable than another human, that's not equality, is it?
I wouldn't think so, no.
Okay. So like how I told the story about somewhere up in the central north part of the US, the college president that got fired for saying that Black Lives Matter at a predominantly Native American community college. That isn't equality, because he was trying to welcome equality and he got fired for welcoming diversity. So see, that says to the public, oh, Black lives don't matter, because if you say it, oh, you could get fired from your job. See what I mean?
Well, it's important to have diversity, but also being compassionate at the same time.
See, and that's where I'm going, because diversity is compassionately welcoming people of differences. So all goes back to compassion, right? Diversity, we welcome people regardless of their differences. We don't judge people just because they're different in some way.
Right.
And that's where I see this all ties in with, here's somebody's trying to make a movement to welcome diversity. And that's an example of compassion leaving our country. In addition to the massive shootings, that there was one yesterday and there was another one today. I mean, shooting someone because you're mad at them about something it's a very extreme absence of compassion. It's like the far other end.
Yeah,
I mean, compassion is under love or whatever else you want to call it, care. And then there's hatred and aggression and desire for evil, right?
uh,
And they're on two far ends of the spectrum of like, mood and attitude.
yeah, anything, about anything can be taken to the extreme if somebody really wanted to. And either,
That's why
and
I think it seems,
in either direction.
well, don't we want the compassionate and loving and care one to get heavier? Well, right now the trend is that this other one on the hatred and
Yes,
anger
so-
is getting heavier. So we do want the compassionate one to get heavier with more people over here.
Yeah,
But this is the one that's too heavy that has the anger and all that. That's why we got that 100 and something massive shootings already, and we're only a quarter in the year.
yeah. Yeah, I want you to kind of, I don't know if I also want to say keep it in the balance, but have it more towards the compassionate side rather than going the other direction.
Because something interesting is they've talked about when stuff like different massive shootings and other big crises like the 9/11 and other things like that happen, people come together in a loving and caring way, but then that it often seems like a fad. They do it for a little bit, then suddenly all go their own ways again until there's another big crisis. And that lately
Yes.
people haven't been responding because these massive shootings got to be such a normal thing with 100 and however many already, that it's like it's an everyday thing and people aren't coming together to get compassionate, to work together through it. They're just like, oh, it's just another one of our regular news.
Yeah,
But if we're getting worse, that much worse, it's a pandemic. Something that maybe I should mention on the mental health awareness on Monday, but definitely falls in that line, is that I was reading on one of my health magazines that keeps me up to date on the latest finding of different health and nutritious facts of different medical research. And it was saying how the pandemic caused so many people, that continues to be a rising number as more years pass since the pandemic and we get further away from it, to in some cases be permanently mentally ill, and not just like say seasonally affected depression where you're depressed at the time of say the lockdown, and then when it's over that you slowly work out of it and get back to your quote normal self that's balanced, right? But how many of these are showing growing numbers of actual permanent new diagnosis? And because of that, we have that many more people every year since the pandemic getting onto disability income because they can no longer work at all. Because of lockdown and other things related to the pandemic, the extreme fear, the unknown, the trauma, different things related to it have caused people to be permanently, I don't know, maybe even traumatized. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, so that's part of our issue with finding skilled people to do different jobs right now, like different employers like myself, because we don't have the same number of people capable of whatever kind of skills. There's the ones that we're at one point capable of, and in whatever category of profession or skill. And then there's within all of those, so many of them that are no longer able to work. So we lost so much of our working supply, talking about meaning the people that were employable that had the skills for whatever line of work. And that's how all of this, now we've got what's crime rising. And do you see where there supposedly is a correlation between that? Because if these different people are people who can't work anymore and don't have health insurance, they could be newly now, all these new people with different conditions, mental illnesses, that can no longer work. but until they actually get on disability, they don't have health insurance. So they don't have a means to get the medication to balance themselves. So if they still have rights to bear arms, like, this big movement, whichever side you stand on about Americans still having the right to carry guns,
Mhm.
I know it's at least big in Texas because our certain politicians are always about like Texas is always going to have guns, and I don't know how Wisconsin is, but um anyways, the different officials uh have that attitude and always have, even as these numbers have risen of so many people carrying guns that are like, these aren't the everyday guns, these are the ones that the military and that kind of people are supposed to have, that so many everyday people are carrying now. And we're like, why are they still allowed to carry those that aren't just the everyday self-defense? And so there's different topics we could get involved with. That's where we argue, well, are these getting in the wrong hands because it's now so easy to access them? So if we have people going downward that who can't get help and now have mental illnesses that didn't before, and they can't get help, but they can also carry arm, is that like the perfect chemical combination of, oh, mentally ill and not treated, got a gun, okay, let's go shoot.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of political, but this is why I'm just talking about like a link, okay? One side or both needs to be fixed with whatever side that is politically decided. But with both of these going on, we've got a cause and feeding a cause. And there's the effect, which is the rise of all this shooting, which in the end is the loss of lives or the loss of more people working, because if they survive the shooting, maybe then they're traumatized and end up on disability because of whatever it was they survived related to some kind of massive shooting. And then that causes even more shortage of people to do jobs, but not necessarily the shortage of jobs.
right.
So see, this is where I'm combining different stuff I hear on the news a lot. Like my everyday, 20 minutes listening to the news to get the latest of what's going on nationally. That I see it unfolding, the explanation of why, how even in 2022, when you and I knew each other, Emily, that we were having all these different jobs or all these other people looking to hire people. And so many just couldn't find the whatever area skilled staff they needed. Like, look at Lawrence. You remember the story of when he met me and he asked Kurt, he was like, why did you not bring her to me sooner? Well, I can do these 4 things that you need. I'm one person for 4 jobs. And he got all excited. Kurt, where was she this whole time? I've been looking for somebody to do these jobs. Well, imagine how worn out he was looking for somebody for so long, and it's only boom, and I'm one person that can do 4 jobs for him.
Yeah,
So he thought I was a jackpot of what he needed. And you know me, Emily, and I thought he was a jackpot of what I wanted to do. So ideal, but how many companies are in his situation of looking long and hard for those skilled people and don't end up with that quote jackpot? They end up still in some kind of struggle because they can't get whatever something done. And eventually they lose their clientele that want that something done because it's never delivered. So they go elsewhere.
right.
And that's where we can tie a lot of this struggle in the pandemic related to the different things I've explained to why now, not only have we had inflation, but have you heard where big companies like Microsoft and I forgot who else in the whole tech that has laid off so many tens of thousands of people. And then later there's a certain coffee chain. It's not Starbucks, but it's a chain in that's what has so many, bless you, so many tens if not hundreds of locations in 1/4 of the country. But it's big like that in that certain 1/4 of the country, like Starbucks. But that one actually is shutting down the whole chain, not just certain locations. And there's other big businesses like that we're thinking they're millionaires, and we're like, man, they don't have a problem getting money, and here they're bankrupting.
Yeah. Well, the part, well, and part of that might be due to a lot of stuff going online too, like with people shopping more online and have that whole thing too.
Well, maybe, but think of coffee, like Starbucks is a coffee shop. Okay, you want the coffee to both drink the coffee, whether it's to go or it's to stay there because say it's someone like you or me wanting to just get out of their house when they do their job. So
Yeah.
they're on there. So you go if you've been to Starbucks or somewhere like that, you see a lot of people have maybe only one cup, and then they're on their computer doing something, or maybe it looks like a student studying. So some of those like coffee shops, if you're not actually there or you don't grab the coffee freshly made, you didn't really have the experience of that particular business.
Yeah.
But also there's like Starbucks is on Grubhub and Uber Eats and others that deliver the whatever product to their customer as an additional fee to the customer. And that generates a lot of business for people like Starbucks that are in that Grubhub, Uber Eats, maybe even Lyft has something like that, but those different delivery services. So there's a possibility something could be true about what you said, and that this chain that was in a certain quarter of the US wasn't a part of those partnerships, and maybe that's where, like you're saying, that people wanted to order it online, so click Grubhub, that certain drink, and then it brings it to them, right?
Hmm.
So in that sense, even I could see you being partially true and hitting a point on the coffee industry.
Yeah.
But that's actually, I know locally in Houston, that's been a key component to even restaurants doing well. And some restaurants don't even allow people to sit inside anymore. They permanently banned it and said we're a to go order only restaurant. Kind of like how big stuff like Papa John's and Little Caesars always was. You never really went in there to eat it. You always went to get it to take home if you were going to pick up as opposed to delivery.
Hmm.
So a lot of people are taking up that idea locally here in the Houston area. And they're using like Grubhub or Uber Eats and some other stuff as their source of delivery. That also kind of generates leads for them. Like we talk about in our business, trying to get listeners and all. They use that to
Yep.
get their business. So there could be some truth in what you said.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about just like the drink industry. I'm talking about like they look at like malls, like with the clothing things, and there are like other things too.
Oh yeah, if you go outside of just coffee, then yeah, that's true. Because like you said, with clothing, I just kind of wonder where that's going to go with clothing. Because if we get to where it's eventually clothing can only be bought online and you can't actually go in and try it, then when new brands come out, how are we going to know what size fits us? Versus like how many of us, at least in our area, we go to our local mall to try on the different sizes. Okay, in this brand and this size. Then you go online and you order, okay, now this is the size I want of this, whatever, something I had in my buy later list on like, I don't know, Amazon or something, right? Save for later, as Walmart calls it and all.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I know what I want, but I don't know what size fits me. Let's go to my local mall to figure that out. Like it's a scale. It's kind of interesting. Well, I only have 12 minutes before my next meeting. Would you like to say anything or like maybe do our closings or anything, announcements?
Um, well, being good We are here every few Wednesdays and encourage everybody to join us and or tune in. And if you're looking to join us on Zoom, participate in the conversation, to let us know, we can get you the Zoom link. Also encourage everybody to check out all of our social media pages. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and like, subscribe, share with all them. And we have a number of other podcasts. Jen has, I mean, you have like 5 or 7 now. That you're welcome to come in on, and we also have a few other ones. So
I think we have 6 or 7, but we have a new one about to come out. Cause it's, let's see, the 4, 5. Yeah, so we have 5 and then,
well, 6 if you count John's special, Christ special.
that's what I was thinking about, cause I was, but yeah, somewhere between 5 and 9 different shows that recur. Some are monthly, some are weekly, and some are every other week, but it's pretty, we have some kind of regular system depending upon what show. Of how often it reoccurs. But we're always coming up with new shows. So that may be true now with the number, but it's not always going to be true.
So in order to do you want to say how they could get a hold of you if they wanted to be on any of your shows?
Yes, please share with them our Calendly and the company and the shared team email.
So if anybody has any questions, comments, wants to be on a show, so on, to contact us at jawscoffeechat@gmail.com. That's jawscoffeechat@gmail.com. And we also have a Calendly link. It's calendly.com/jawscoffeechat to schedule a time that works for you. And anything else you want to add before we close, Jen?
Please be sure to check out our website if you're interested in learning more about our podcast and other things that I, Jennifer A. Whitaker, as the author, with the help of my team, have to offer. Then please go to our website, Jen's Books and More.com. I'm almost confused. There you go, Emily, you're pulling my leg.
You're on your own website.
I know, right? So it's JENNS booksandmore.com. And you will find a menu on the right side, or maybe the top, depending upon what device you're on, that has a page for our podcast, a page for our services, a page for our books, and other things that we have to offer. JENNS booksandmore.com. And if you want to consider being a part of our podcast team or our writing, editing, and ghostwriting or other things related, even be part of our co-hosting and of our different shows that you specifically like and want to regularly be a part of as a co-host, and in return to have a 1 to 3 minute spill about your business or what you do, then please also email us JAWS, JAWS, coffeechat@gmail.com to inquire about getting scheduled or to become a co-host or whatever else is based on how you're interested in being a part of our team. And if you're interested in learning more about our products or services, especially services that would involve talking to a professional like myself that actually does the work, please call 346-439-8393. Or ideally, it would be better if you texted it, because I get so many phone calls, I can't answer them and be on podcasts and such. So 346-439-8393, and please text. That's preferred, so I can respond to you and have time to read your text and attend it quickly. Anything else, Emily?
I think we might be good. So on behalf of myself, Jen, and the rest of the Reliability Podcast Network, wish you a safe and productive weekend to stay happy.